Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to set up an AI video content assistant. This automation will help you prepare your YouTube videos for publishing by generating transcripts, descriptions, chapter markers, and subtitles. Let's dive in. First, let's look at what this system does. Before publishing a video on YouTube, it generates an analysis report on the video, identifying silent moments and repetitions. This helps you edit your videos if needed. It automatically generates content to publish the video on YouTube, including a video description, chapter markers, and subtitles in SRT format. Now, let's break down the tools we'll be using and why I chose each one of them. MINIO for storage. I picked MINIO because it's like having your own personal cloud storage. It's super flexible and can automatically notify our system when a new video is uploaded. This beats using something like Google Drive because we have more control and there are no limits on API calls. N8N for workflow automation. N8N is our workflow orchestrator. I chose it over alternatives like Make or Zapier because it's an open source software and it gives us more flexibility. It's perfect for connecting our tools together. Python for our custom scripts. Python is versatile and has great libraries for video processing. We'll use it to create scripts that works with tools like FFmpeg and Whisper AI. And for NocoDB for organizing our data. Think of NocoDB as a supercharged spreadsheet. I chose this because it gives us a visual way to manage our workflow. It has a Kanban board and it's great for keeping track of where each video is in the process. Whisper AI for transcriptions. Whisper AI is an open source AI model from OpenAI's that's fantastic at turning speech into text. It's accurate and supports multiple languages, which is perfect for creating transcripts and subtitles. OpenAI for content generation. We'll use OpenAI's model to generate video descriptions and chapter markers. It's currently one of the best options for this kind of natural language processing. The best parts, except for OpenAI, all of these tools are open source software. This means you can run and deploy them anywhere you like. For this tutorial, I'm going to deploy everything on CloudStation, which is my personal cloud platform. But feel free to deploy these tools wherever works best for you. On your own server, a cloud provider of your choice, or even your local machine if you're just testing things out. I chose this open source approach because it gives you the freedom to customize and adapt the system to your specific needs. Plus, you can benefit from the continuous improvements made by the open source community. No vendor lock-in, no unexpected API changes, you're in control. Now let's dive into the details of how our AI video content assistant works. Our process kicks off when we manually upload a video file to MINIO. This triggers a webhook that calls our first N8N workflow, the video processor. Once N8N receives the webhook, it first analyzes if the uploaded file is indeed a video. If it's not, the process stops right there. But if it is a video, our Python script jumps into action. And here's what it does. It compresses the video if it's larger than 25 megabytes. This 25 megabyte limit is crucial because Whisper AI, which we use for the transcription, has a 25 megabyte file size limit. Then it uses Whisper AI to transcribe the audio, giving a full text version of everything said in the video. It generates subtitles in SRT format so that we can directly add them to YouTube. And it creates an audio analysis report which can help identify silent moments or repetition in the video. Once the Python script finishes the process, it automatically triggers our second N8N workflow, which starts the content generation process. In this workflow, our system downloads the transcript created in the previous step. Then, using OpenAI, we generate two key pieces of content: a rich AI-generated description for the video, chapter markers to help viewers navigate the content. After this, we gather all the important information: the video title, the description, chapter markers, subtitle URL, and the analysis report URL. All of this generated content is then stored in our NocoDB. I've set up NocoDB to automatically tag the new entries with the review status so that you know at a glance what needs our attention. And finally, to keep you in the loop, the system sends you an email notification letting you know that everything is ready for your review. After that, the manual part starts. So after we review the content generated by AI, we can then go to YouTube and start the publishing process. So we're going to be adding the generated description and chapter markers and uploading the SRT files for the subtitles. This setup automates the time-consuming part of preparing a video for publication while leaving us in control of the final publishing step. It's designed to save time without sacrificing the personal touch that makes our content unique. Let's start by setting up our tools. For this demo, we're going to use CloudStation to streamline our deployment process. First, log into your CloudStation account. Once you're in, create a new project. This will be our workspace for our entire setup. Now, let's deploy N8N. Click on Add New, Templates, and look for N8N. And then click on Deploy. Next, while it's deploying, let's deploy MINIO. MINIO is going to be our storage solution. Same as before, just look for MINIO. And click on Deploy. Finally, let's deploy NocoDB, which will be our database solution. Now that everything is deployed, let's open N8N and create an account. Let's create our first workflow. We're gonna start from scratch. And the first step is going to be creating our first trigger. In our first workflow, it's gonna be a webhook. So look for webhook and add one. So we need a post webhook. This is gonna be triggered once we receive a document in MINIO. So let's copy the webhook URL and next we're gonna activate it so that it works. And I like to rename my workflows. So this one is gonna be the video processor. Let's go back to CloudStation and open MINIO. We can get the credentials from the variable tabs in CloudStation. So we're gonna be needing the MINIO root user, which is gonna be our user, and the MINIO root password, which is gonna be the password. So just copy both of them. And we're in. So CloudStation has created a bucket called CloudStation by default. It has a custom policy, which we're gonna change to be public for our use case. So, let's make the policy public. This is gonna allow us to access our documents publicly from MINIO without having to figure out how to deal with the policies. Next, we're gonna create another webhook in MINIO. This one is gonna be triggered each time there is a new file. So we're gonna copy the webhook that we created in N8N and save. Then we're gonna restart our MINIO server, and next we're gonna go to the bucket to activate the webhook. So we're gonna subscribe to events. We're gonna subscribe to the creation events. So put is create in MINIO, and that's it. Now, each time there's a new file that is stored on MINIO, it's gonna trigger the webhook and it's gonna call the N8N instance that we have. So I'm gonna test it right now with just any file. I'm gonna take an image, and let's go back to N8N and see if it has triggered. And yes, we have our event that has arrived on our N8N instance, and I can see the JSON file which has all the information that I'm gonna need in order to finish my workflow. I will be specifically needing the key, which is gonna allow me to get the name of the file. Now that the webhook is triggered every time we add something to the bucket, let's deploy the Python script that takes care of scaling and transcribing the video with the Whisper AI. So this script uses MINIO and a webhook URL to send notification once the transcribing is done. So for that, we're gonna need to get some information from MINIO. So let's head back to CloudStation, and from the variable section, let's get those variables. Copy MINIO server URL, MINIO bucket, root password, and the MINIO user. And then go to templates and look for YT automate. So that's the Docker image which has the Python scripts that I have made. And then let's copy everything that we need. So for the API key, this is something that you can choose. For myself, I just put CS Omnia video. This is the key that's going to allow us to use the Python script through N8N and also through the UI. Then copy the S3 endpoint, which is going to be the server URL that we copied from CloudStation. The S3 secret key is the MINIO root password. And for the webhook URL, we're going to create it in N8N like we did for the first workflow. So let's go back to N8N, create a new workflow from scratch. And then, so this one is going to be the content creation workflow. Let's create a new webhook. It's going to be a post webhook as well. And let's get the production URL to copy it in the script variables. Just be sure to get the production URL, not the test URL. And copy it in the webhook URL field. And click on deploy. It's gonna take a few minutes to deploy because it uses CUDA if you want to use GPU for this template, but it's not necessary. If you don't want it to be using GPU, you can just leave it as is. Let's go back to the video processor and let's get the old execution so that we have something to work with. So from execution, go copy the JSON file and go back to editor and let's put it as a mock data. Just remove everything and copy it. So for this workflow, I want to exclude anything that's not a video so that I only send videos to the script, to the Python script. So for that, I need to get an if statement, and I'm gonna look for the key, which is gonna be the video name with the extension. And I want to exclude everything that is not a video. So I'm gonna everything that ends with the .png, for example, I'm gonna remove it. And I'm also gonna exclude everything that ends with the .srt and .text. So let's just copy the key from earlier in the expressions, and string that does not end with. And here you can put all the .txt and .srt. In my case, I know that I will be generating files that ends with .txt and .srt, and I don't need to send them to the script. I can test with the old workflow, and I know that I have sent that PNG, so that's why it ends up in the false statement. So if it's a PNG, I don't want to do anything, so we just add a no operation, so do nothing. And in case it is a video, then I want to transcribe it. So let's add an HTTP request. Let's call it just convert and transcribe, which is going to be what we're going to do in the Python scripts. It's going to be a post method as well. And the URL is going to be our script URL, which we'll find in CloudStation. In the Connect tab, just copy the URL, and that's the URL for the Python script. So I have created a couple of methods, but the ones that we're going to use right now is the /convert_transcribe. So it's a method that's going to allow us to convert the video and transcribe it. We're gonna need to send file name, and we're gonna need to send the API key in this format, so X API key, and that's the same API key that we have defined earlier. So in the shared variables, you're gonna find API keys and just copy whatever you put when you deployed it. And for the body, we're gonna need to send a JSON, which gonna have as a key file name, and we're gonna put in there the file name. We have to send the content type as application JSON. So because I'm in the true statements, I don't have any example, so I'm just gonna go back and change. Detach the false statements and just interchange them so that I can work with my example without needing to start from scratch. So I'm gonna look for the file name, which is gonna be the key on the object, and just put it on the file name JSON. And then I'm gonna go back to send in the script if the file is a video, and if it's not, then send nothing. And that's it. That's how we create the first workflow. So to test it, let's go back to MINIO, and this time let's upload a video file. So I have a video there prepared to test. Just upload it, wait a few minutes, and in the execution I will find that it's okay. So we have an error. The deployment of the script was not done yet, so that's what the error was about. Right now, if I try it from the UI, I can see that it's deployed. Now I'm gonna go back to N8N and rerun the last execution, and this time it should work just fine. And yes, I can see here that the transcription has started, and if I go back to the logs, I can see in the logs that we have received the call from from N8N to start the transcription. Once the transcription is done, we will see in MINIO the new files that are ready, and we will get an execution in N8N. So let's go back to MINIO, reload the page, and yes, we have the report.txt, which is going to be the analysis report of the audio. So if there's mistakes or any repetitions, they will be detected. And also you will find the SRT file and the transcription file that are also in MINIO. So if you go back to N8N, we can see that we have a new execution, which is just the script being called so that we can start the content creation part. So let's copy the JSON of the last execution so that we can work with the data. We can set it as mock data. And next step, we will need to download the file from the S3 bucket. So that's what we're gonna do next. we're gonna create the credentials. So we're gonna use the variables from the MINIO instance. So in CloudStation, we will need to get the MINIO server URL, which is gonna be the S3 URL, and we'll be needing also the root password and the user. So for the region, we can delete the default version, and you can go copy the root user and the root password. And we need to also force path style and ignore SSL issues. And after that, we hit save, and MINIO is now connected. Next, we need the bucket name. So it's CloudStation. You can also find it in the variables. And for the file key, it's gonna be the name of the file, the transcription file, which you will find also there. So we need to drag it and drop it in the file key. So it's gonna be an expression, not a fixed value, and we can rename this to download transcription. And we can test, and now we have the binary that is downloaded. So the next step is gonna be to extract the text from the file. So we can find the node extract text, and we need to extract text from file, and we pass it the file from earlier. We don't need to do anything, and we're gonna pin the data so that we can work with it for the next step. So next, we're gonna use OpenAI to use the transcription and create chapter markers. For the credentials, you can use your API key from OpenAI. I'm gonna pass mine, and then we're gonna create a. We're gonna use GPT-4 or whatever you want to create a prompt. So we're gonna need a system prompt and a user prompt. I will be sure to leave everything somewhere in the description. But basically, I'm just gonna ask GPT to, based on the transcript file that I will pass it, to create chapter markers in the formats that I specified. And then I'm gonna also pass a user prompt that's gonna make the GPT act as a YouTube scripter. So that is creates the chapter markers that I need. Next, I'm gonna do the same for the description. So I'm just gonna copy the same note from earlier, and I'm just gonna rename it and replace the prompt so that it creates a description instead of a chapter markers. And let's rename everything so that everything is neat. So using also OpenAI, I'm just gonna pass it a user prompt and a system prompt, the exact same way I did for the chapters. Next, I'm gonna test it, and I'm gonna pin the output so that I can use it in the next node. So next, I'm going to, so let's do the same for the chapters. And next, we're gonna use a set variable node so that we can get our generated content, and that we can easily use it later. So we're just gonna name it get chapter content, and I'm just gonna do create a new field called chapters, and I'm gonna pass it the content from the generated content. gonna test it and pin it for later. And I'm gonna copy it and do the same for the description. I'm just gonna rename the field to description, and the key is gonna be the same. It's gonna work. Next, I'm going to get a node to merge both the chapter and the description into one object that I can then send to NocoDB. So all I need is the merge node, and I'm gonna combine all the possible combinations, which is gonna create an object with the chapters and the description for me. So I'm gonna run it to get the results and pin it to use it for the next part. Okay, so next we're gonna need NocoDB. We're gonna create a row, but first let's create the credentials. So for the API token, we will first go create our admin user. So all you need to do is create an admin user from the sign up page, and then go to the account setting, and tokens, and create new token. I'm just gonna name it content generator. Then I'm gonna copy the API key and just copy it there. And for the host, it's gonna be the MINIO instance URL, which I can get from CloudStation, and paste it in the host. And that's it. We're now connected to NocoDB. So we're gonna need to create our tables. So if you go back to the getting started, and let's rename it to YouTube, and let's create our tables. So we're gonna keep the title, and we're just gonna create other fields. So let's add a formatted description, which is the description we generated earlier, and it's going to be a long text, and we can enable rich text so that it's prettier. And we'll do the same for chapters, so just duplicate it and name it formatted chapters. And next we create a new field called status, so that whenever we create a new whenever we generate a new description and chapters, they are in the status review, so that everything is organized in a Kanban like board. So we're gonna have review, archive, and post. The colors are just representative, so you can do whatever you want. And we will also add the rest of the fields. So the fields that we generated from the script. So we have the report, which is going to be a URL, and we're going to have also the subtitles, which is also going to be a URL. So these URLs are going to be the download URLs for the files, so that when you click, they're automatically downloaded. We can go back to N8N and test the workflow. We will be able to now see the new table that we created. and there we need to put the exact same names that we did in the NocoDB. So for formatted chapters, the key is going to be formatted chapters, and we send into it the chapters. And for formatted description, we put formatted description. Right, and now it should have created our first entry. It has only the formatted descriptions and the formatted chapters. So I can see that there is a problem in the prompt for the generated chapters. It seems that it's sending more than just the chapters. So I'm gonna try to change the model and see if the problem is gonna fix that way, or see what I can do next. But let's test the whole entire workflow. It should generate now the description and chapters directly on NocoDB, and description seems to be good, and the chapters as well. So I'm gonna update the table so that whenever there's a new entry, the status is by default set to review. Gonna empty the database. And now let's get the rest of our fields so that we can populate NocoDB with everything that's generated. So we need a set field, and we're gonna get the other files that were generated by the Python script. So we need the SRC file name, which we will get directly from the webhook. Let's drag and drop it. We will need as well the original file name, which is gonna be the title. So it's just the name of the video file that's transcribed. And we're gonna need also the report and the transcription. So the transcription file is also gonna be, we're gonna get it from the webhook. So it's the first node that's triggered our workflow. And finally the report. And also it's from the webhook. So we're gonna duplicate the merge node from earlier, and we're gonna create a new one to merge these elements with the chapter and the descriptions that we generated earlier. So we're gonna separate the first merge node from node NocoDB and combine both the fields that we get from the webhook and the fields that we get from the first merge node, that are the descriptions and the chapters. So let's rename it to merge all the fields. And let's test it. So for the NocoDB now, we need to update the fields that we're going to be sending to the new, because we changed the node that was connected to the NocoDB. We need to update the fields now. So for the reports and the subtitles, we will need the server, the MINIO server URL, so that we can construct the URL using the file name that's generated. So it's going to be the URL slash, it's an expression, URL slash the bucket name, which is CloudStation, and then slash the name of the generated content, which is going to be the report file name we created earlier. and we just copy the same thing. Because we're gonna do the same for the SRT file, we're just gonna change the name of the file name to SRT file name. And lastly, for the title, we're gonna just use the original file name, which is the name of the video we transcribe. And we can test and see if it arrives on NocoDB. So in NocoDB, we can see that we have all the entries, all the fields that are generated. For the reports and the subtitles, it's a URL. When clicked, it downloads the files, and for the rest of the fields, we have the text as expected. Let's create a new Kanban view so that we can easily see the generated content, and we can use it later for other automations. But for now, we'll just use it for a nicer view of what we generated. Now that we have the data in our database, NocoDB, we can add another step to send an email whenever the transcription and the creation of the content is done. So for that, I'm going to use an SMTP account. For my case, I use the Gmail SMTP. You can also use some other service like Mailgun or SendBlue to get a free SMTP account. For the from email, you can put whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. It's gonna use the SMTP information. And for the to, you will put the email you want to receive the notification in. For the subject, I just put the video name is ready. And I'm gonna start by testing with the text format. So I'm just gonna get the video information from the previous node. So let's get the subtitles and the reports. So I'm gonna put the same downloadable URLs in these fields so that I can also download them directly from the email without having to go back to NocoDB if I don't want to. Then the chapters and description. And I'm just gonna drag and drop all the information I need to the fields so that I have everything dynamic. And I'm gonna go check in my email if I received a new email. And yes, I have an email with all the information I've sent it. I'm just gonna go a step further and make it a little bit prettier. So I'm gonna use Claude to create an HTML template for me. I'm gonna give it all the information, so all the fields that I use, so that it's the same field. And then I'm just gonna copy them, and instead of text, I'm gonna change it to HTML and put expression and copy the generated content from Claude. If I go check my email, I can see that I have a new one, and it looks a little bit better with all the information that I need, with the links, and I can download the subtitles and the reports directly from the email. There's an issue in the links to the chapters and description. I'm just gonna put the NocoDB link in there. I can try and get the raw URL, but there is no need. I'm just gonna get the URL of the NocoDB instance, and it's gonna be enough for this automation. Again, let's test it, and let's check the email one more time. And this time we have the right links to the NocoDB instance that I can open from here. Now that our workflow is done, we can test the entire thing with just one upload of a video. So I'm gonna go to MINIO. I'm just gonna clean out everything that's in here, and I'm gonna upload a new video. So I'm gonna take a big video, and I know it's gonna fail. Because MINIO UI does not allow for more than 100 megabytes of size, so that's the size limit. And for that case, I created this UI in the same Python script. So you just put the API key that you chose from earlier, and you upload the video. And you click on upload. So this is gonna trigger upload script that is in the Python script from earlier. And not only is it gonna upload to MINIO, but before that it's gonna resize the video and scale it down to match the file size limit of Whisper. And if you go to the execution, you will see that it has indeed called the convert and transcribe API, which will start transcribing the video using Whisper AI. And if you go to the content creator workflow, we can see also that an execution has started and finished, and we have received the email with everything that we needed. Now that we have automated the creation of the YouTube transcript, we have our baseline ready to take that text and repurpose it for the rest of our content. As a matter of fact, the next automation I'm going to tackle will be generating the LinkedIn posts. Check out the next video where I will be building this automation step by step. And don't forget, if you want to replicate this automation, you will find in the description below a link to access the workflows for free, the link to the open source projects I created for this automation, and as we saw in the video, there is a one-click deploy template for the Docker image version of this repo. I'll see you in the next one.